The 365 Pro Wrestling Podcast.
365 Nation, thank you for joining me once again. This is the 365 Pro Wrestling Podcast, and today we are talking with Wasp. I don't think it's his real name, but that's what he likes to be called in pro wrestling, and that's what we're going to call him. We're going to talk about his story about Chris Jericho, Lance Storm, and a whole bunch more. Alright, so Wasp, tell me how you started out.
Well, I first became a wrestling fan in 2002 and basically fell in love with it after watching so much wrestling. Kane was my old school. Kane was my first favorite wrestler. Anyway, so I decided I wanted to be a wrestler. I went to Storm Wrestling Academy in 2007 and unfortunately didn't finish the class because kind of along the way, I got into martial arts and a little bit of MMA and kickboxing. And I got thrown in a different kind of ring with, guys who were just much more skilled than me, and I just got my butt kicked way too many times. And so, mentally speaking, I just wasn't ready to get I wasn't ready to get into wrestling, and so, I got a bit standoffish. I figured I would get over these issues when I went to Storm Wrestling, but I just didn't. So I eventually left. Although probably the most notable thing while I was there was I managed to get Chris Jericho's attention by calling myself the fighting action guy. I wanted to make him laugh, so it sounds like it worked quite well.
It did work quite well because it's even in his book.
Yeah, it is. He mentioned me in his book there. I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's Chris Jericho Undisputed is the one I mentioned in his middle book right now. And he also mentioned me recently in his podcast with Lance Storm.
Very nice. So you left an impression for sure. But after the academy, you were gone from wrestling for a few years, and then you joined the Pro Wrestling Academy in Campbell River.
That's correct. Yeah, I in between those years, I went to acting school. I was an actor. I became a certified personal trainer. I bounced around to a bunch of different things, and then I found out that your school was right there in Campbell River. So. What the heck, I've still got the bug. I feel like it's time to overcome these little mental issues that I've got, and I did.
And that's kind of a really big story, and we were filming about that beforehand, and I have it pretty much done. I stopped working on it when you got hurt because I just didn't know how I felt about it, but now that things are progressing in a different way, I think that'll be out and released pretty soon. But you trained, you started doing matches, you overcame this huge demon in your life of all these personal issues. Not when people think of demons, they always think of abuse of alcohol or drugs or something, but this was just more of a mental thing. And
similar
it's
to
physical as well.
I was just saying it's still very similar to, like, I've never been abused in that sort of sense, like many other people do, but it was a traumatic experience that I went through, and it was just I wasn't the same afterwards. And those issues plagued me right up until I went to your academy like 10 years later. So and
that was kind of the crazy thing. I remember you thinking we liked to kill each other and hurt each other. I'm like, no, none of us, we don't like this pain.
Yeah, well, it's something that you deal with as a wrestler, but yeah, I certainly had a different impression, or I thought I had to have a different kind of attitude going towards it. But yeah.
And then so you trained, you did real well with that. You started doing some matches, and the plan was for you to go back to film school because it's something you love so much, and you crave it, don't you? It's something that you want to do again.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I have many passions in my life. I'm sort of a jack of all trades, but a master of none. I'm very passionate, love wrestling, always do. Probably, I think I always will. Love acting, love filmmaking, I love history. I've got a lot of different interests. And so, as much as I've had wrestling in my life, I've been missing having some other things. So I planned on going back to film school in September of 2019. And then in June, yeah, I had my wrestling injury.
That was the big accident. And tell people about what you did and how you hurt yourself, and then talk about the prognosis.
Yeah, sure thing. I was just in wrestling practice one day, and I was practicing this move that I've done plenty of times in the ring before. It's sort of like I jump onto the second rope and from there leap outside of the ring. And so anyway, I was just practicing it, just trying to get my wits about me or whatever. And so I did it like I think 4 or 5 times already, just in practice. And I thought I'm gonna do it just one more time, just to sort of seal it off for the day. And my foot caught on the bottom or on the top rope a little bit, threw me off balance, and I landed on my feet. But instead of landing sort of down, almost in a squat position, I came straight down on my right heel bone, and I shattered my heel bone. And it's very, very strange. I thought I just sprained my ankle or something, but Zachary Langdon drove me to the hospital, and they quickly x-rayed it and said, yeah, it's broken. And later I saw a specialist about it, and the prognosis was very, very bad. He said, well, your heel is shattered. Or to be more specific, it's a calcaneus fracture. And besides breaking your neck or breaking your back, or I don't know, getting a concussion, it's a calcaneus fracture is kind of one of the worst injuries you can get, because it can affect you with every step you take for the rest of your life. And he said to me, you're never going to wrestle again. You're never going to work a manual labor job ever again. And you're probably never going to run again. So he made it sound like I was going to walk on a cane the rest of my life. And yeah, that was very soul crushing.
It's pretty crazy because I remember that day I was just off to the side. I was writing my book. It was just before we started officially practice. I think Zach was getting his gear on, and then we see you go down, and you made a noise where I'm like, oh, he hurt himself. This isn't good. But you hobbled off. You're like, okay. And then only minutes later, you're like, it's something real bad. And that's when you guys went to the hospital and found out all this information. And then you told me about how you may never even run again. And I remember being devastated by like, wow, this is like so life changing. And I couldn't imagine what you were going through because you're a very active man. You love doing a lot of stuff and you need that leg, and even just walking your dogs and stuff. So I'm like, this is going to change his life. And I knew you weren't going to get to film school right away. And then you met another doctor.
I did. I ended up changing doctors. Here I'll mention Dr. Tung is the man who performed my surgery, and he was a very, very good man. I'm very incredibly thankful and grateful that I got him as a doctor. So anyway, he performed the surgery, and he had a different attitude. I feel like the attitude he had was, we have to wait till your recovery until we can totally decide what your limitations are going to be. But he just took his time. I had about a 6 or 7 hour surgery, and he just slowly and meticulously put my heel right back together again. My heel was in about 15 pieces, but he just put it all back together again. What can I say? The bone looks good, and the joint looks good. There is joint damage from what happened, but I don't think that what's going to happen to me is what the first doctor said, So, for anyone out there who's got a calcaneus fracture, don't let the grim outlook get to you, because that might not necessarily be what happened, After the surgery, the very next day after my surgery, I was out of it on painkillers, but I remember the doctor saying to me, the surgery was successful. It went well. In fact, you may even be able to get back into wrestling again. So, things have been going well. I'm still, I'm just over 6 months out from my surgery right now, but I'm already working out in the gym again, lifting weights again. I'm stretching, and I actually have more mobility in my foot than was expected. I was told that there was going to be no mobility in my foot, but there's actually quite a bit. And so, I'd say recovery is going exceptionally well. And I don't think that the devastating prognosis that was given to me by the first doctor is what's going to happen.
But there still is a lot of recovery left. Like, you haven't ran yet, have you?
Not yet. No, I've kind of ran, but I really have to build up the muscle in my calf muscle before I can actually get running again. You know.
For sure. And did you see your body changing as you were out for 6 months? And you used to work out all the time. Like, how was that going through all that?
Oh man, well, it sucked because most of the time I just had to sit with my foot up so that the swelling wouldn't get to me inside the cast. So I managed to get a routine going. I think my dog actually really enjoyed my injury because I was at home able to throw his ball more often. So yeah, but I just got I got some art projects going and I got a routine going, and that's what kept me sane during my waiting time. Definitely, I'd say I've lost maybe about 50% of my strength, but I'm just taking it right back again. And yeah, I'm working out my legs as well. My right leg obviously got incredibly skinny. Like, I've never experienced this before.
And it's cool, though, to see that you are back doing it again. And that's kind of the story. You went through a situation and then you overcame it. Now you had this wrestling injury and you overcame it. So it's great to see your persistence always paying off. And now, what's the future hold for you? What are the goals for the next year and a half?
Well, the goal for the next year is get ready for going back to film school. I'm going to be heading back to Capilano University. I was there before for acting, but now I'm going back to film. And the school was very understanding about my injury, so they let me defer my acceptance to the next year. So I will be going this year. Just pushing my recovery, I'm not at a point where I can get back into wrestling yet. I probably won't for about another 6 months or so. But at least there is a light at the end of the tunnel. At least I can jot down my progress and say, you know what, things are going really well,
It's really amazing to hear, and I just remember the first prognosis I heard, and you told me, I was like, wow. And now to see how far you've come is just amazing. It's really inspiring. I'm really happy for you going to film school because I know you really enjoy it, and I know you'll pass along a lot of knowledge towards me. You still made one of my favorite films going, the Choose Your Own Wrestling adventure.
Yes.
It's amazing. And we'll talk about that one maybe next time. I want to wrap this one up just because I want to keep it short, and I'm going to need you on again. But just tell me how people can connect with you. I know this weekend we're going to have you at the events. We're going to have you maybe as a backstage correspondent or possibly a ring announcer. We'll see what's happening. We'll keep you involved somehow. But how can people keep touch with you?
People can keep in touch with me. You can check me out. I'm on Instagram under the Fire Wasp. Come give me a shout, and would love to chat with you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me, Eddie.
What a story, though, Fire Wasp has. He went through adversity after adversity and is conquering them, and I can't wait to see him back in the ring one day. So thank you, Wasp, for doing the interview, and thank you guys for listening. Remember, we got shows January 10th, January 11th in Camp Woodburn and Courtney. Check out our website, 365prowrestling.com, for more details.